Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today, we've got a pretty big video. On this channel, I have been known to be less than optimistic towards Civivi. I've criticized them a lot and even used terms such as overrated when talking about their knives. However, I like to give credit where credit is due, and I do like Civivi, and they have made a lot of knives that I've really enjoyed, and honestly, I do think they have some of the best build quality in the game. So, today we're going to be ranking what are, in my opinion, the 10 best Civivi knives. I'm very excited about this list. I think there's going to be some pretty cool things on here. So, before we get started, we've got to take care of some honorable mentions because I have a ton of Civivis, guys. I really do. I own a lot of Civivis. Some of them have been given to me, sent to me. I've bought a bunch. I have a lot of Civivis. So there are some that I enjoy that just didn't make the list, right? So one of them is the Civivi Dogma. This is a pretty cool knife. This is one of the I think this is one of the first Civivis I ever bought. I've had this knife forever. This is the copper scaled version. Love that clip point blade. This is a very cool knife. A couple of reasons it's not on the list. Number one, I just haven't carried this knife in a long time. Number two, the action is not that great. There for a while, every single Civivi I got just had subpar action. Whoops. And that was something I complained about a lot with Civivi. But I do love the overall look of this knife. I love the jigged copper. But yeah, just not going to make the list. And there are other versions besides the copper one. This is discontinued. I think the murdered out version is still available, but for the most part, I think they are discontinued. Next one that's an honorable mention. This is the Pletheros, designed by Elijah Isham. I love this knife. I really do. It's weird and wacky and just very cool. A couple reasons it's not on the list. Number one, I haven't had it all that long. Not enough to really get to know it and use it and stuff. As you can see, there's a couple of marks on the blade. But the other thing is because it's not the most intuitive user knife, right? It's a very cool art piece, but it's not really the most EDC excellent or most EDC optimized folding knife ever. So it's not on the list, but I do love this knife a lot more than a lot of other knives in my collection, just because of how absolutely wacky it is. And I love wacky. I love wacky. It's good. It's good for the soul. So yeah, that one is not on the list. Another one that's not on the list, I don't have an example of this one, that could have made the list is the Brazen, specifically the Tonto version, but we'll throw in both here. I think the drop point version looks just hideous. I'll be honest, I think it looks hideous. It's got a bead blast on most of the versions available, and it's gross. But it is in 14C 28N, which I really like. In fact, I think it was one of Civivi's first knives in 14C. However, the Tonto version I think looks very cool. It's in D2 for some reason, but very cool, kind of tactical knife, great action, great build quality. That one is really good, but not on this list. I haven't handled one of those in forever, and even if I still owned one, I don't think I like it enough to put it on the list. Alrighty. Last one for the honorable... Actually, no, not last one for the honorable mentions, but another honorable mention is the Voltaic. This is a newer knife, and I do love this knife. I think this is a very clean-looking knife. It's a very well-made knife, but to me, it's nothing special. It's a little bit overpriced, in my opinion. It is a cool knife. Again, very cool knife, but the ergonomics leave a little bit to be desired for me. I hate that clip, and yeah, this is honestly a knife that's probably not going to be sticking around very much longer. I honestly forgot that I had this. But yeah, this is a very cool knife. I do love the looks, but just it's not enough to make it onto the list. Not enough. Alrighty, and our very last honorable mention. This might shock some of you guys. The Praxis. I love the Praxis. I love the Praxis. It is such a great knife. 9CR blade, G10 scales. It was one of Civivi's original models. There are so many different versions of this knife out now. Very good ergonomics. It's got that choke up position. Very nice, broad drop point / spear point blade. Performs excellently. It's a fantastic knife. It almost made it onto the list. It almost made... In fact, I might even change my mind as I'm making this. This is a knife I love so much. I really love this knife. But I left it off for a couple of reasons, and you will see why. Very, very cool knife. Alrighty, getting into the actual list. We are actually ranking these. I know most of my list videos aren't ranked. This one is, which makes things even harder, but I thought it was appropriate. So, in the number 10 spot is the Insight. And this is the only reason the Praxis didn't take this spot. And it's kind of weird. So the Insight is discontinued. That's going to be a theme throughout this video. We're going to bring that up right now. This of course is one of the fancy versions. This one was about $90, close to 100. The other versions had, I think it was D2 steel, but they had like crazy G10 carbon fiber scales. I do prefer 9CR over D2. However, I think the Insight is the superior design over the Praxis. The Praxis is really, really cool, and in a lot of ways, these knives are very, very similar. Very similar knives. However, I do think the Insight was a better design. The ergonomics on this are just so good. A little more neutral than the Praxis. The Praxis has those finger grooves. You do still get that choke-up point. A blade that performs very much the same with that full flat grind. Just really, really nice. This feels the hand so good. Very, very smooth action on this particular version. Better action than is on my Insight, which is a little bit rumbly, and if I don't have the flipper tab exactly right, it will fail. But yeah, the Insight, it was very close. The only reason the Praxis isn't on this list is because I have the Insight, and I do think the Insight was a better design. So, there's number 10. Number 9. This is a knife that I do not have with me, but it is the Civivi Otis. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the Civivi Otis. I think. Okay, I had to double check myself. It's the Ortis, not the Otis. I should have known that. Anyways, really cool little knife. Very snappy action. Affordable, too. It was a very affordable Civivi 9CR blade and plastic scales. Very affordable. It was a really, really cool knife. Yeah, just a great knife. Deserves to be on this list. And they are also discontinued. Alrighty, moving on to number 8. We have the Civivi Elementum sticker. I have so many of these. I have dozens of these floating around. I absolutely love these. I use them all the time. The ergonomics are fantastic. Blade is super, super thin. And I mean, the show side is definitely much more beautiful than the other side. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Seriously, though, I have so many of these dang stickers. They're everywhere. They drive me nuts. Alrighty, next up is another one that I don't have, and this is the Civivi Mini Praxis. I did review this recently. This was a new release for this year. Very cool knife. Very, very cool knife. It did not stick around in my collection because it was a little bit too small for me, but I did want to put it on this list because it's a very affordable Civivi. It's under $30, and in the time of modern Civivi, that is fantastic. Really fantastic. Most Civivis are getting up there in price. This Civivi model is very affordable, and it's a good knife. Very snappy action. It's everything you love about the Praxis except smaller. Yeah, it's not my absolute favorite knife, but I did roll on to mention it because yeah, it's a very well priced knife. So that's really, really, really cool. Alrighty, next up, number 7. The Civivi McKenna. This is a very awesome knife. Again, this is another Elijah Isham design, just like that Platheros from earlier. This was the very first front flipper I ever had. When I first got this knife, I carried it a lot. I got this knife before the channel started, when I was just getting into knives, and I carried this almost every day. Let's see if I can still... Oh, I haven't played with it in a while. Yeah, there we go. Very easy front flipper to do. Very nice, sharp jimping. It goes all the way around. Very easy to manipulate. And just a great design. Kind of a Warncliffe blade. It's a small knife, a very, very small knife, but it's very useful. The ergos are pretty good for what it is. Very great little blade. Full flat grind, D2. And this knife kind of reminds me of a simpler age for Civivi, kind of a bygone age. You know, Civivi knives nowadays feel very different from this one, and some people might argue that's a good thing, some people might argue it's a bad thing. I'm not saying either way, but I really do like this knife quite a bit. It's a very, very cool one, and I love it. It's very, very good. Not going to leave my collection, also sadly discontinued. Next up, this is a knife that's not super old, but is already been discontinued for some reason. The Civivi Riffle. This is a really, really great knife. 14C28M blade. Micarta was absolutely disgusting. I did dye this stuff. Very good ergonomics. The action is very nice with that blade hole. The flipper tab is a little bit goofy to me, but it does work. You know, you just got to adjust to it, but it does work. Great knife. Great, great knife. I don't know why the heck they discontinued this. This is a really, really cool Civivi. This is another knife that, after I got it, I carried this for a long, long time. I still carry this periodically. It's just that dang good. Very, very nice blade shape. Kind of a weird-looking knife, to be honest, but it's a good one. It's a fantastic user. If you pick one up, I think you'd absolutely love it. This one has had a couple of edges put on it. 14C takes a great edge. Civivi does a fantastic job with it. As you can see here, this is a lower grit edge than I normally do. But the 14C does really great with that. Or not a lower grit, but a lower angle. 14C does really great with that. And yeah, very, very cool knife. Great access to the lock bar. Again, good build quality. And these were priced very, very nicely. These were like $55. I thought that was a steal. Really, really sad to see that knife go. Alrighty, next up, another somewhat new version or new model. This is the Conspirator. I do really like this knife. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of button locks, and I have had some issues with this knife and its button lock. Not the biggest fan of Nitro V, but it's okay. You know, it's been fine on this knife. Very, very cool knife. It's a full-size knife. Great ergos, great jimping up here. Really, really nice blade. Kind of reminds me of the Praxis in some ways. Full flat grind, Nitro V. It's going to work fantastically. You can swip. I've said that multiple times. You can swap that clip around, and it makes it a very ambi-friendly knife. You know, button locks are pretty cool, even for lefties. And overall, the Conspirator is just it's a great knife. It is. I love the design. It's really cool. I love the green micarta. Again, not the best micarta, but it's okay. Yeah, really, really nice knife. Very glad to have one. Yeah, just a good all-around design. I kind of wish they would make a liner lock or frame lock version. I think that'd be very cool. But this is what we've got, and it's very, very nice. Alrighty, number 4. This is another older one, but this is one that I absolutely love. The Civivi Vexor. This is a great knife. It's a huge knife. This is a really, really big folding knife. But man, it just works and works and works. I love this thing. Love it. Very nice action. That flipper tab is positioned perfectly, and it's big with really nice jimping. Oh, that thing rockets out of there. Also has a full back spacer, which I think is awesome. Reversible clip, and it's Civivi's old clip, the clip I like better. Blade hole, of course. Oh, man. And very smooth on the close. This knife and me have had so many adventures. Absolutely love this knife. Again, it's been discontinued, but this knife does bring me back to a bygone era of Civivi. And I think this knife was super underrated when it was around. D2 and G10, you know, nothing exceptional in the budget tier, but man, it's a really, really good knife. I absolutely love it. Need to get another one before they're all gone, and I won't be able to replace it, but cool knife. Next up, number 3. This is one that I carry all the time. I love this guy. It's the Civivi Baby Banter. This knife is kind of a modern legend. This thing's a classic. Love this knife. It's a small 5th pocket carry, but it does that so perfectly. Great ergos. You can get a full grip on this knife, even though it's tiny because of that huge Choil reversible clip. A really dang good clip, by the way. This is a fantastic clip. I love that. Liner lock with great access to the lock bar. Nice, snappy action. This is a knife that's kind of a no-brainer. Just throw it in your pack, throw it in your pocket, and go. This knife is never too far away from me. I take this with me when I travel all the time because, you know, if I'm ever in a place with restrictive blade laws, this is fairly legal in a lot of places, especially here in the U.S. So, really, really nice knife. Just, gosh, if you don't have a Baby Banter, you're missing out. And at this point, what are you waiting for? They've got so many versions of this knife, literally dozens and dozens of versions of this knife. I'm sure you can find something that you will like. Great knife. That drop point blade, Nitro V steel, perfect user blade. This knife has been sharpened multiple times. Man, it's held up so nicely though. I will say the first time I was using this with the factory edge, the edge was not great at all. I think it was a burned edge. In subsequent sharpenings, it has gotten better and better. Alrighty. Number 2. This is a knife that is very new to me, as in just a few days. This is a Civivi Aratra. I don't know. How do you say it without rolling your tongue? Aratra. I need to look up what that means. This thing is... Oh, it makes me laugh so much. If you have not seen the unboxing video for this, it would have come out the Wednesday before you're seeing this. This is a Saturday video, so it should come out last Wednesday. I went and I chopped some wood and did some crazy stuff. This thing just brings me so much joy. I love it. It is an expensive knife. It's the most expensive knife on this list. D2 steel, G10. But I gotta say, the happiness it has brought me has been worth it. It's this huge Ulu cleaver hatchet, just behemoth. Look how thick that is. It's silly and stupid. Does it need to exist? No, but I am so glad that it does. I love the heck out of this thing. This thing is fantastic. You can grab it back here. You can grab it up here. You can grab it in here. You can double hand it. This thing is just... This is honestly Cold Steel levels of crazy, right? This is Cold Steel levels of shut the front door, right? But it's coming from Civivi, designed by Torbe. You can see his logo up there. Great texturing on the G10. This thing just makes me laugh. I love it. Is it practical? Absolutely not. Like, I don't think I'd ever practically use this. You better believe I've been taking this camping and stuff. But that's just for fun, right? It does have a sheath, this monstrous sheath. Oh, this thing is just so cool. So cool. I'm so glad I got one of these. Absolutely worth it. I highly recommend it. Review will be coming soon, and gosh, that is going to be one heck of a review. I can already tell. It's going to be crazy. Civivi has been making crazy fixed blades recently, though, and I really appreciate that. Alrighty, here it is. Number 1, my very favorite Civivi ever made, the Statira. This is a fantastic knife. D2 steel, G10 with this carbon fiber overlay. I did dye this G10 used to be tan. I dyed it this navy blue. This is, again, an older Civivi when they were using the titanium clips, which I love. I think this knife just looks amazing. It does have a bead blast on the blade, which I'm not the happiest with, but it's okay. Just an amazing knife. The action on this thing, oh, it's so good. That flipper tab is perfect. Look at that drop. Oh, man. This thing is so nice. It's so nice. And to this day, this is one of the most comfortable knives I have ever put in my hand. This thing just fits the contour of my hand so perfectly. You do even have a choil to choke up into. This thing is absolutely fantastic. I love it so much. This is probably the best Civivi ever made, in my opinion. They did such a good job on this. And then they discontinued it. And it's gone, and you can't get one. And that sucks. But there's my list. I want to hear what you guys think. Before we close this video, yes, there was no Elementum on the list. I do have an Elementum, as you guys know, because you see it in every review. I just don't think the Elementum's all that great. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people love it. It's a good knife. It's a really good knife. Great gift knife. Just not my thing. The other thing I want to talk about is so many of the knives on this list are discontinued models. And to me, that speaks a lot about Civivi as a company. I love so much their older models. There are so many knives that could have made this list that are discontinued, but you know, this is the list I have, and I think this is a good list. Honestly, I could have traded out the Mini Praxis because personally, it's not my favorite knife, but I think it's a really great Civivi. And I think it's a great gift knife, and it's a knife that I recommend a lot. So that's why I put it on this list. However, the biggest reason it was on the list is because it's a good price Civivi in a time where Civivi is, you know, creeping up in price, and of course everything is. But if I decide to leave the Mini Praxis out, there are other discontinued Civivis that easily could have slid into its place. I miss the old Civivi. I do. But, you know, the new Civivi is also giving us some great things like this absolute hunk of a knife. So I'm not complaining too much. Civivi is a good brand. I understand why a lot of people love it. Even though I think a lot of their designs are derivative and don't need to be made. I am glad that they are doing stuff like this. And I'm glad they made such excellent knives as this one. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.